Rat rods are the rebels of the car world, raw, rusty, and built from junkyard scraps. They're not about shiny paint or even perfection. They're about attitude, creativity, and breaking the rules. In this video, you'll discover the fascinating history of rat rods, meet the pioneers who started the movement, and see how these junkyard legends have shaped car culture. Whether you're a gearhead or just love a good underdog story, you'll walk away with a newfound appreciation for these rebellious machines. Also, can we get 5,000 likes for these rusty legends? It helps out a ton, and we really appreciate it. To understand rat rods, we need to go back to the 1980s. The hot rod world was caught up in the pro street craze. These were street cars built to look like drag racers. By 1987, most pro street cars were just for show. They never saw real road use. They had huge rear tires, tons of chrome, and big blowers on stock engines. The worst part? Building one could cost over $100,000. This priced normal car lovers out of the hobby. The scene was ready for someone to shake things up.
No one outruns the law. Until the California kid comes to town.
I want you to know I know who you are, what you're doing here.
Jake Jacobs from Pete and Jake's Hot Rod Shop decided enough was enough. Jake was already famous for building the California Kid Ford. But what he did next changed hot rodding forever. Jake took parts most people would call junk. He used a 32 Ford frame and a 28 Ford two-door sedan body with no roof. He added a chopped windshield, a 32 Ford grille, and a small block Chevy engine. For seats, he just threw in an old bench. The best part? Jake drove this creation, completely unpainted, to the 1987 Good Guys West Coast Nationals in California. Picture hundreds of shiny, perfect show cars worth small fortunes. Then Jake rolls up in what looks like an unfinished project. The crowd was shocked. Then Jake pulled out cans of red paint and brushes from his car, and he started hand painting it right there at the show. Soon people were picking up brushes and helping him. The Jake Lobby became a community with strangers talking, laughing, and painting together. Jake wasn't just building a car, he was making a statement. Hot rodding should be fun and affordable, and cars should be driven, not just shown. Jake even drove his car to the Bonneville Salt Flats, made a pass, and drove it home again.
Down and showed him my portfolio, and Ed said, well, if I knew you were alive, I'd hunted you up.
The Jake Lobby started a movement, but it wasn't called a rat rod yet. That name came a few years later thanks to artist Robert Williams and Hot Rod magazine editor Gray Baskerville. Williams was famous for creating hot rod art. He worked as art director for Ed Big Daddy Roth and created the original cover for Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction album. In the early 90s, Williams built a 1932 Ford Roadster that captured the spirit of cars from his youth. Simple, primer-painted machines with a good stance and just enough power to be fun. Williams painted his Ford with red primer and added Dead Man's hand graphics on the front with 8s and Aces lettering. When he showed the car, Hot Rod editor Gray Baskerville called it a rat rod. This was like rat bikes, motorcycles built on tight budgets with whatever parts were available. The name stuck. This is important. 8s and Aces wasn't junky or poorly built. It was well made with good welds and proper work. It was just a 1950 style hot rod wearing primer instead of glossy paint. This difference would matter as rat rods evolved. By the late 1990s, some builders were taking rat rods in a whole new direction. They weren't trying to recreate real hot rods from the past. They wanted to bring the wild, cartoon-like hot rods from Ed Big Daddy Roth's artwork to life. Steve Sellers found a 1950 Ford Business Coupe and turned it into one of the most memorable rat rods ever. He lowered the rear end so far that the tail would drag on the ground. Under the hood, he put a Chevy 350 engine with 6 classic Stromberg carburetors, a setup straight from the 1960s custom scene. The paint was wild. A copper base with green seaweed flames and custom pinstriping everywhere. When the Seaweed Coupe debuted at the 1997 Billet Proof show, people went crazy. It looked exactly like something Rat Fink would drive. Sellers didn't just show his car, he drove it every day. His favorite trick was firing the flamethrowers in the exhaust, which shot 10-foot fireballs. A photo of Sellers leaving his car with flames shooting out became famous in the hot rod scene. The Seaweed Coupe proved you could build something wild and fun without spending a fortune. If the Seaweed Coupe was wild, the Purple People Eater was insane. Built by Marky Izzardi with help from his brother Alex and the Shifters Car Club, this rod looked like a 1960s drag car from a cartoon. They started with a Model A two-door sedan body and chopped the roof off super low. For power, they found something special, a 1956 Pontiac 316 engine with real racing history. This car actually raced from 1959 to 1961 and even set records at Riverside Raceway. When they opened the engine, they found it full of vintage racing parts, perfect for an authentic period build. They made the engine bigger at 405 cubic inches, put 8 carburetors and a supercharger on top, and added zoomy headers for the exhaust. They placed this monster engine high in the front of the car, just like racers did in the early 1960s. True to the period, they used no front brakes, put cheater slicks on the rear, and ran with no radiator. They painted it deep purple with vintage race markings. When the Purple People Eater debuted, people couldn't believe their eyes. A car that looked like it came from a cartoon was actually running and driving. It made the cover of Rod & Custom magazine in February of 2001, and suddenly rat rodding exploded nationwide. Everyone wanted to build something with this wild style. While others were building wild cartoon-like cars, Jimmy Shine of SoCal Speed Shop took a different approach. His 1934 Ford pickup called Bare Naked became just as influential, even if some argue it's not technically a rat rod. Shine found an old 34 Ford cab and bed in a friend's backyard. He put them on a frame, added a Ford flathead motor, and made custom wheels and steering parts. What made Bare Naked special was its finish. No paint, no primer, just bare metal with a clear coat to prevent rust. The result was clean, simple, and mechanical. A hot rod stripped to its basic elements. But what really set Bare Naked apart was how Shine used it. During lunch breaks at work, he'd take the truck to dry lake beds and drive it hard on the same places where hot rodding began decades earlier. This wasn't a precious show car to be babied. It was built for speed and fun. Bare Naked represented hot rodding in its purest form. Taking what you have, making it faster, and using it hard. Today, the truck is still driven regularly and has even been in a ZZ Top music video.
Started with a 1934 Ford cab, and we're about a half of a cab. We just built everything else.
By the early 2000s, rat rodding had become huge. Special magazines featured these cars, and shows like Kill Billet and Rat Rod Rumble appeared across the country. But with success came problems. Some builders took the rat look too far, creating what critics call shock rods. These cars were built with little concern for safety or quality. They often have excessive rust, random parts welded poorly, and dangerous construction. Many original rat rod builders don't like these unsafe creations. They built cars that looked different but were still properly built and safe to drive. Despite these concerns, the rat rod movement has brought good things too. It has attracted young people to hot rodding by making the hobby more affordable. It has also renewed interest in styles and techniques from the 40s, 50s, and early 60s. Many builders start with a rat rod and later move on to create more refined hot rods as their skills improve. And that wraps up our journey through the rat rod revolution. From Jake Jacobs' hand-painted tub to the wild creations of today, these machines prove that creativity, attitude, and personality beat polish and perfection every time. Rat rods aren't just about rust and patina. They represent hot rodding in its purest form, taking what you have, making it your own, and most importantly, driving it hard. Which rat rod era speaks to you? The original primer-painted traditional builds, the wild cartoon-inspired customs, or today's anything goes creations? Share your thoughts in the comments section below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.